What is going on, guys? Luxe ICE review. So the Luxe ICE is another paintball gun that's been requested a lot. So let's go in depth, sorta. So like always, I'm not gonna go into super detail on these things. We're just gonna kind of name off the stuff that's new on the ICE in comparison to the Luxe OLED and give my opinions and what I think about it. So I kind of look at the ICE as the biggest change there's ever been to the Luxe platform. They've considerably redesigned the bolt, has that angled foregrip on-off, it's different, and instead of the eyes connecting through a ribbon from the trigger frame all the way down and up into the body, they now use pin connectors, so it's just easier to take the frame off. So they haven't massively redesigned the bolt. It's still that similar Luxe style or kind of like the Vanquish style. The biggest change they've made is for sure that ceramic coating all over it. So that ceramic coating is going to help reduce pressure a little bit, so you can reduce the pressures by about 40 psi. And it also is helping with air efficiency. So we're looking at probably an extra 200, 300 shots on the new ICE bolt in comparison to the previous Luxe bolt. And that ceramic coating should also help reduce O-ring wear a bit to help with reliability. Right away you can differentiate the ICE from the other Luxe guns just by that angled foregrip. The angled foregrip is about a 10-degree forward angle and has that ribbing on the front to make it grip a little bit better. The angled foregrip really is just kind of preference. If you like it, cool. If not, okay. They've also redesigned the on-off ASA, so there's no more knob on the front of it. It's going to be somewhat similar to like the Empire on-offs that come on like the Axe, the Mini, the Vanquish, where you pull the back of the lever, air turns off, and then you just flip it down to turn the air on. It's just a little bit easier. Along with the ergonomic change to the foregrip, they also changed the design of the trigger frame grips. So they're a little bit thinner up the top, while remaining a little thicker at the bottom, so they kind of have that hourglass shape that the Dye ultralight frame has on like the M2 or other Dye paintball guns. So it's a little bit more comfortable. I like the grips quite a bit more than the old ones. To make this assembly a little bit easier, instead of the eye ribbon running all the way from the eyes down the body and into the trigger frame, they now have pin connectors in the frame, so you don't have to worry about pinching eyes or disconnecting the eyes when you remove the trigger frame from the body. So I think those changes they've made to the Luxe ICE from like the Luxe OLED have made quite a bit of a difference. Previously, the Luxes weren't the most reliable guns. It seemed like there'd be good ones and bad ones. You'd get a guy who loved his because it just always worked. And then there were people like the ones I've had that just, I don't know, I couldn't get through half a day without some leak or something going wrong. I honestly equate that increased reliability on the bolt, right? The redesign and that coating, I think just helps O-rings wear a little better. They tend to last longer. It seems to me anyway, like they've kind of solved that big unreliability problem. Well, yeah, you're still going to have guns that don't work that well sometimes, but for the most part, all the people I know that have these ICEs, they work. They don't really have issues with the things. I also really wasn't a fan of the ergonomics on the original Luxe. I don't know, it just felt weird to me, and I think really that angled foregrip makes it feel considerably better to me. I really do like that angled foregrip. I don't on other paintball guns. I think that it's kind of weird on a lot of stuff, but on these it does feel better. So I definitely like the ergonomics on the ICE quite a bit more. So they also changed that on-off, which I don't know, I guess the old one had a problem. I don't know, it seems like they might have just changed it to change it. It is a little bit easier to grab and turn it off quickly, but most of the time I'm not in a big hurry to turn the air off. So I never had a problem with that twist knob. Sometimes the O-ring would go bad inside and you had to change it, but then again, changing that O-ring, I mean, took like 20 seconds, so it wasn't really a big deal, and it didn't go bad that often. So maybe the new one's a little bit quicker and a little bit easier, and then I guess that's a good change, but it's not dramatic. Having no eye ribbon going up from the trigger frame to the top of the body for the eyes, though, I like that. Because in the previous Luxes, you had to make sure that that eye ribbon sat like perfectly in this slot in the side of the body, so when you put the frame on, you wouldn't pinch the eye wires or the ribbon. So I definitely like how we don't have to really worry about when you take the frame off and put the frame back on so much about that eye ribbon in there. You can kind of just put it together and not have to pay attention and think so much. So if you're at the field for some reason you need to take the frame off, you can do it a lot quicker and speedily and not have to worry about pinching the eye wire anymore. So these, it feels like there's a little bit of difference in performance. So one of the reasons I didn't really like the way Luxes shot is they were super airy. So the bolt, it's like, it just feels really slow when it shoots. Not rate of fire wise, the bolt just feels laggy. And in my head, I'm just like, oh, the gun's not working right. It just feels broken to me. So I didn't really like that shot. I preferred the shot of the Geos much more because it's a more poppy, like crisp shot, or the DMs are like that too. So you kind of like, bam, you like know it's shooting. When the previous Luxes, it just kind of felt weird. And this still has that airy shot, but it doesn't seem as dramatic. It seems a little bit more crisp, but it definitely still has that Lux shot. So it's definitely airy, definitely very smooth, very little kick, and they're very quiet. So it's still a Lux, but it shoots a little bit different. So I should also say that last weekend I played with this about half the day and the CS1 about half the day. I was shooting gel caps, Ignite paintballs, which are like a high-end tournament ball. I didn't break any with the CS1. And then this, in that shooting video, there's a link up there. You can see that in the shooting video even, I started to break paint. But it wasn't terrible in gameplay. I broke a couple, but it wasn't dramatic. And yeah, used the same barrel size. So I think that the Planet Eclipse guns, at least from my experience, are a little bit easier on paint. So I've never been a real big fan of the Lux. They just weren't reliable enough for me. Sure, they were quiet, they didn't kick and all this jazz, but if they only worked half the time, what's the point, right? It needs to be able to shoot paintballs. I think that the things they've done to the bolt have made these considerably more reliable. So if you always liked the Lux, but yeah, didn't like the unreliability of them, I feel like the Luxe ICE is a definite improvement. And it is one of the better high-end guns still. I would probably still prefer all the Planet Eclipse guns over it, and probably an M2, then maybe a Vanquish, and then probably the ICE. It's not the worst, but I don't feel like it's the best either. Thanks guys, that's a Luxe ICE review. Kinda, maybe an overview, not super in detail, but if you want, check out more reviews in that big rectangular box. Hit that circle button and subscribe, or check out the Paintball Ruined My Life store in the square one.